Well, folks, many Democrats see the state of North Carolina in the Senate race that will occur in 2026 as a prime opportunity to flip a seat that has been held by Republicans for the last decade. Democrats, they are vowing to spend billions, and I mean billions with a B, billions of dollars to retain very vulnerable Democrat seats, places like Minnesota, Michigan, Georgia, New Hampshire, but also spending tons of money on vulnerable Republican seats, places like North Carolina, places like Maine, even potentially Ohio, if you have a competitive Democrat that is able to jump in that race. And today we are going to be talking about Roy Cooper in the state of North Carolina because Roy Cooper is a major problem for Republicans in the state of North Carolina. Now, Roy Cooper was born back in the 50s in Nashville, North Carolina, and has been a fixture in state politics since the mid 80s. Now, he was initially elected to the North Carolina House of Representatives in 1986, serving until 91. And then in 91, he was actually appointed to the Senate after the death of another senator from the state. He served in the state Senate from 1991 until 2001, including serving a period as Senate Majority Leader. He then was elected in 2001 as the next North Carolina Attorney General. He served from 2001 to 2017, which broke the record for the longest tenure in state history for an Attorney General. He then took all that experience, 16 years on the job as Attorney General, ran for the governor's mansion in 2016 and won. He won in a state that Donald Trump won by 3 points in the same election on the same ballot. In 2016, he defeated Republican incumbent governor Pat McCrory and was reelected in 2020 against then Lieutenant Governor Dan Forest. So he went from winning by about 1/4%. Fast forward to 2020, he won by 4.5 points. He increased his margin over that 4-year period by almost over 4 percentage points. Cooper is undefeated when it comes to statewide election. He has gone 6-0, including 4 terms as Attorney General and 2 as governor. He is 6-0 when it comes to statewide races in the state of North Carolina. 6-0. He has not lost an election that he's ran for in 40 years. 4 decades, and he has not lost an election. And his 2016 win was historic. He became the first challenger to defeat a sitting governor in North Carolina history, beating out the incumbent governor by roughly, I believe, like 10 or 12,000 votes. He beat him out by, about 10,000 votes. He beat incumbent Republican governor out by, which is just absolutely wild. In 2020, Cooper won with about 51.5% of the vote. While at the same time, Donald Trump carried the state by like 1.5 points, making him the only Democratic governor to win a state that Trump won in 2020. It was the only one. In fact, look at this. None of these. Well, obviously, there wasn't a lot of Democrats up for re-election in 2020, but obviously Delaware, Washington, North Carolina. Remember, Trump carried North Carolina in 2020. It was the only swing state that didn't go to Biden. Trump carried it by 1.5 points. Remember, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada all went to Biden. Even the 2nd Congressional District from Nebraska went to Biden. Trump held on to North Carolina, and somehow Roy Cooper was able to expand his margin of victory in 2020 relative to 2016. Now, Roy Cooper has a lot of dominance in this state. There's no doubt about that. He has a ton of dominance in the state because it drives Republicans insane that Roy Cooper knows how to win in a tilt red state. Because he has to be probably one of the most popular politicians in North Carolina since like Jim Hunt. Like honestly, and Jim Hunt, his dad was a close advisor to Jim Hunt. Jim Hunt was the 69th and 71st governor from the state of North Carolina. Just a huge political legacy in the state. Huge legacy we're talking about here. And Cooper's success stems from his moderate image. Let's just be honest about it. It 100% stems from his moderate image, being a strategic campaigner, and his ability to appeal across party lines, across ethnic lines, across social divides. Cooper presents himself as a mainstream Southern Democrat who focuses on things like jobs, education, healthcare, which, to be honest, who doesn't jobs, education, and healthcare resonate with? Especially you're looking at a purple state and then a governor who was able to deliver, a governor who actually delivered on these things. Whether you agreed with what he did or not, he actually delivered. Legislation got put on the books. He worked with a Republican legislator Remember, right before he left office in 2023, he worked with Republicans to secure a Medicaid expansion for over 500,000 new beneficiaries in the state of North Carolina and attracted huge businesses like Toyota and Apple to build campuses in the state of North Carolina. But Cooper, he may be a moderate Democrat, but that doesn't mean he's going to shy away from what he believes in. He does not shy away from negative ads. He doesn't shy away from his political positions one bit. In 2020, he attacked then Lieutenant Governor Dan Forest on his anti-mask stance, a move that actually played out pretty well with voters in the state of North Carolina. Even though I totally disagree with the policy, I can disagree with the policy and also see how it actually worked out for that politician. Remember, Cooper built his own fundraising network, reducing reliance on outside groups, and has funded a state Democrat operation to support other candidates. He built the groundwork. He built the legacy. He built the political machine in North Carolina that helps Democrats get elected. Now, it doesn't happen often that Democrats get elected, but remember, Josh Stein just won a huge election, won by like 15 points. Look at this. Josh Stein beat out Mark Robinson by almost 15 points. 15 points. Now, we can all talk about Robinson. Mark Robinson had some pretty big issues. We are not discounting that one bit. Will this have been closer with a better Republican on the ballot? 1,000 frickin' percent. No doubt about it. But Democrat Josh Stein was his hand-picked successor. There is no doubt about that. Hand-picked successor. And he won by 15 points. He still won by 15 points. But getting back to Roy Cooper, his governance style really avoids the drama. During COVID-19, he was not one of these liberal or even conservative governors who really jumped to shut down their entire state. He moved with. He was very calm, data-driven. All of his restrictions and I don't want to say all, but a lot of it was data-driven, which was a big contrast from like the flashier governors like Andrew Cuomo, Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, Ron DeSantis. Regardless of the part of the Ron DeSantis, I don't think was as flashy. I just think he was a huge target for the mainstream media, which made him flashy. But I feel like he did a great job. Ron DeSantis in Florida when it came to COVID and how he handled COVID. It was all data-driven. All data-driven there. But Cooper, his veto power has been a huge weapon. Roy Cooper vetoed over 104 bills, more than all other North Carolina governors combined. Now, granted, there's a little asterisk there that the power was actually only given to the governors, or the veto power was only given to the executive branch in 1997. And you want to know who actually did that? Roy Cooper. You're looking at him right here. He was the one who worked with worked with Republicans across the aisle to give veto power to the executive branch. He crossed party lines to give more power to the executive branch to veto legislation that was passed by the legislator. Now, some notable vetoes would be a 12-week abortion bans, transgender sports bans, LGBTQ education restrictions. And granted, Republicans did overrode about half of the vetoes that he issued, which I also think that the whole transgender sports ban, I think that could be some political liability. Roy Cooper, he does have political liabilities. We're going to sit here and try and pump him up. He's this moderate Democrat who just appeals across the board, who's been able to win in places Trump wins in. But still, he's still a Democrat at the end of the day. And that was a stupid move to stop to veto a bill that would not allow transgenders to compete in support, like a mentally ill man who wants to compete in women's sports. That's not okay. That is a political liability. Republicans should hammer him on that. Hammer the hell out of him on that. But you have to give him credit. He has an ability to win in a state where Republicans control the legislature. Trump won in all three terms. All three terms he carried North Carolina. Like, North Carolina is a swing state. With Trump winning it, it's like, you look at the last four elections. Let's even go back to 2000. Because remember, Barack Obama won North Carolina. This was a Bush plus 13 state. Fast forward to 2004. Still, the margin lowered, a half a point? Fast forward to 2008. Barack Obama flips it. They also, in that same election, elect a Democrat. They elect a Democrat on the Senate level 2008, Kay Hagan is elected as the incumbent or as the senator from North Carolina. But this was a Republican state for a long time. In fact, 2012, Romney won it back by about 2 points. Trump expanded the margin by almost doubled the margin in 2016, won North Carolina by almost 4 points. 2020, Trump won it by a point and a half, even though he lost the election. 2024, Trump won it by almost 3.5 points. This is a state that that Republicans know how to win in. But Cooper knows how to appeal to the independents, moderates. Split ticket voting is not a big thing anymore, but it does happen. It very clearly happens. Or people who just vote for the top of the ticket, or they vote for someone that they care about. They don't, they're out to vote for one person. You saw that. Wisconsin, Michigan, both voted for Trump, but at the same time, they elected a Democrat. Same thing in Nevada. Nevada and Arizona voted for Trump, but elected Jackie Rosen, won re-election. Ruben Gallego won this election against Kari Lake. Now, you can put some blame on Kari Lake and the Republicans for what they did, but ultimately, they still won. There is split ticket voting. It still does happen. It happens a lot, actually, if you didn't know that. But it definitely is a lot less than it used to be. There's no doubt about that. And Tom Tillis, he faces a huge primary challenge. It's like there's a lot of Republicans who want to get rid of him. Laura Trump has been thrown out there. Now, granted, she doesn't live in the state. There's a lot of logistics that would have to happen, but he's vulnerable. Tom Tillis is very vulnerable. And 4 of the last 7 North Carolina senators lost re-election, showing that incumbency isn't necessarily a lock. Remember that. In the state of North Carolina, it is not a lock. Look at this. North Carolina. You see a flip. We go to 2014. Tom Tillis flipped it. You go, look at this. Burr. Kay Hagan flipped it in 2008. Look at this. Republicans flipped it in 2004. Keep going back. Democrats flipped it in 1998. Incumbency isn't as big of a deal in North Carolina as you may think. Obviously, there's still a huge advantage to being an incumbent, but ultimately, you can see the data. The data shows that incumbency does not mean that you're going to win. It doesn't. Does not mean that it's a lock. And Democrats need North Carolina to regain the Senate. Okay, let me say this. They're not going to regain the Senate majority in 26. Let's get one thing. The Democrats' ceiling is like 49 seats. End of discussion. That is their ceiling. Even if everything goes perfect for the Democrats, they hold all the vulnerable seats for them and pick up North Carolina and Maine. They're still at 49 seats. They'd have to pick up somewhere like Alaska or Ohio. It's like that. This is what they need to do to get into the majority. And the reality is even with a strong Democrat from Ohio, I like a Sherrod Brown, it's just not going to happen. I really just have a hard time seeing that happen. But I think the Democrats, their ceiling is at 49 seats, and Cooper is their best shot in this tough map on the Senate side to flip the state of North Carolina. You've heard me say it. If Roy Cooper's in this race, I have it as a lean or slight Democrat advantage as of right now. Georgia, if Brian Kemp's in this race, it's a slight Republican advantage. Right now, I have Michigan as a toss-up. Minnesota is a lean Democrat. Maine is a lean Republican. New Hampshire as a lean Democrat because Chris Sununu announced that he was not going to run. Obviously, Scott Brown, a lot that could play out there with him in New Hampshire, but we just got a lot to see there. But midterms, as we know, often favor the opposition party. And with Republicans controlling the presidency right now in 2026, turnout may favor the Democrats. And it really could favor the Democrats. But at 67, some question if Cooper wants to get into another grueling campaign. He's been through 6 statewide campaigns in North Carolina. But he's come out and said he's not done. He's not done. It's just not going to happen. But I really think if Roy Cooper's in this race, this is a lean Democrat seat. This is. He has a proven electoral history, and the fact that Tom Tillis has a lot of baggage. He's got a lot of baggage. There is plenty of baggage that Tom Tillis has. It's like you talk about, he has been censured by the North Carolina Republican Party on 2 separate instances. 2 separate instances, which just is terrible. It was over his support of gun control and same-sex marriage. And yes, did Tom Tillis, did he win a competitive election in 2014 against Kay Hagan? Did he win a competitive election in 2020 against Cal Cunningham? Absolutely, yes. We're not going to downplay that. Yes. Did Tom Tillis, were all the polls in 2020, had Tom Tillis losing? Absolutely. They did. Look, it's like you can look at this down here. Look at this. There was not a single prediction service that thought Tom Tillis was going to win. 4 thought it was a toss-up. 5 thought it was a tilt or lean Democrat. Look at this. The average polling margin for Cal Cunningham was roughly 2.5 to 3 percentage points, depending on who you asked. Look at this. You can probably count on 1 or 2 hands how many polls showed him leading. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, 8. There you go. Look at this. Look at all these polls. But still, nobody is going to discount that. Nobody is discounting that he ran tough elections. And he won in tough elections, even when Biden became the president. Even though Trump only won this state by a point, like 1.2 percentage points. You know, you look in 2014. Now, this was for the overall, look at this, Kay Hagan. Look, consistently polled above Tom Tillis, consistently. There was no, look at this, not a single person thought that the Republicans were going to win this seat. Not a single one of them. Even one of them thought it was a lean Democrat. But Tom Tillis still has a lot of issues. He does. When you've been censured by your own party 2 times, it really doesn't do anything. But ultimately, it shows that there is displeasure with what you've done. There's huge displeasure with what you've done. And at the end of the day, one of his biggest flubs, in my opinion, when it comes to Tom Tillis, has to do with the fact that he supported bipartisan legislation that would have given any illegal immigrant here in the United States amnesty. You know, there were hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants pouring across our border for the last 4 years. Every month, hundreds of thousands were pouring across the border. A huge national security issue. Huge. And Biden just let it happen. And, you know, Tom Tillis took the bait. Oh, we need legislation. We need legislation. We didn't need effing legislation. Give me a break. We needed a new president. We need someone who's going to enforce the law. That's what we needed. And that's what we've got. We didn't need legislation. We needed someone who's going to enforce the law. Why was Tom Tillis so focused on passing a bill that would have given amnesty to millions, tens of millions of illegal, undocumented criminal illegals? That's what he wanted to do. But no, that's not what we needed. He was so out of touch. Look, I'm okay. If you're a Republican and you break with the party, I'm okay. But it says a lot of where you break with the party. You know, Susan Collins, she's broke with the party in a number of different places, like on abortion. She broke with the party. But she comes from the state of Maine. That would be a huge, huge focal point if she was, you know, if she wanted a federal national abortion ban at 6 weeks. She wouldn't win. She wouldn't win. That would be huge ammunition for the Democrat Party. You have to be realistic. But when you decide to break with the party on the issue that we are most favorable for, immigration, you have a screw loose. I'm sorry. You do. And Roy Cooper is going to steamroll this guy. And now, and I say steamroll, I probably shouldn't say steamroll. It's going to be a close election either way. Republicans, the National Senatorial Republican Committee, is going to pour probably $250 million into this race, if we're being honest. Probably close to $250 million. But Democrats and Roy Cooper are very well positioned to take control of this seat. Roy Cooper's undefeated record, his moderate appeal, and his really, a knack for outmaneuvering Republicans really makes him a formidable candidate. It makes him a formidable problem for the GOP in North Carolina. Whether he runs for Senate in 2026 or continues shaping state politics behind the scenes, especially when it comes to his fundraising network, the infrastructure that he's built out, his impact is far from over. It's far from over. He may be a former governor right now. He may not run, but his impact is far from over. So let me know, what are your thoughts? Do you think Republicans can find a way to counter Roy Cooper? Do you think they can find a way to win? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you found this video useful, helpful, entertaining, however you found it, The best way to support us, and it's free, is to drop down below, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and smash that like button. That is the best way to help our channel, to reach more and more audiences, to help reach you when we are covering a topic that you are very much interested in. That is how we get in front of you. That's how we grow. So I appreciate you guys tuning in today. Until next time, folks.